You know, part of what I like to do is try to give you good information and solid information, some information that's going to actually help you, teach you something you can take to the woods. You know, most importantly, I want you to have an incredibly successful year. And it's not just about deer hunting and that's the end result. That's your test. That lets you know you're doing a good job. And we talk about ways that you can see how many deer you have, say for example, midnight mature buck pictures compared to daylight mature buck pictures. Obviously, if you're getting a lot more daylight, or at least getting that 1-to-1 ratio I talk about, great way to test that you're doing a great job. Random buck pictures. You should have 10% random buck pictures, bucks that you don't recognize, or less, typically 5% or less on a great, well-managed parcel. It's a great way to test that your activities are doing well. But we're sitting right here, beginning of April. And I want to, really have you start thinking about going forward throughout the summer, and as we get into the summer months, that you're planning and you're making appropriate whitetail activities that are actually going to help your deer hunt this fall. And so there's a lot of mistakes you can make during the summer, and you have to stick around towards the last one. It's my attempt at a little humor, but you have to really think about, everyone's time is very valuable. Right now, because of what's going on in the world and COVID and everything, there's people that have more time, and we have more time to spend on working outside like we are right now, which is awesome. So there's good that comes from everything. But at the same time, I want to make sure that you're heading in the right direction. And I want to make sure you avoid these top mistakes that I found this year, and that I've looked at throughout the summers as maybe mistakes that I've made in the past and things that aren't going to help you out. And the first one, this really just helps you enjoy your land a little bit more. I want to make sure that you use your land. Don't think that just because you're using your land during the summer or the spring, you're going to spook bucks away. That's a big myth. I know people out there that haven't been in certain portions of their land for years at a time. What a waste. And it's not just a waste that you're not using the land. It's just what a waste to learn. An opportunity to learn, to go into bedding areas, learn and see how they're using actually the bedding areas, if there's rubs or scrapes in bedding areas. I was on one client parcel where there's a tornado that went through on 10 acres. They hadn't been in there for 5 years. We finally were in there. We had to climb and claw our way through all those down timbers, giant soft maple. They were all twisted one way, one direction. And there wasn't even a deer that could use that parcel here, so he thought it was this great sanctuary. They were using the edges of it, just going in maybe 20, 30 yards, but they were avoiding the whole 10 acres because they couldn't even actually walk through it. We had a difficult time. One of the most difficult properties out of nearly 1,000 portions of property that I've ever walked through. And so an opportunity to learn, greatly, greatly missed. An opportunity to use your land. Ross Fernandez, my turnkey partner, that cuts on a lot of properties. He loves to race motocross, and so he uses a large percentage of his land during the summer months to race motocross. Hopefully less and less, because he keeps breaking things like his leg, ankle, that kind of thing. So I'd like to see him be able to use the land more, jump around with his kids, whatever he does. But anyways, there's a lot you can do during the spring, summer, early fall, leading up to the season. My general rule is from the end of deer season all the way up until about a month before the season, do whatever you want in your land, because those mature bucks that you're after, the deer herd you're trying to create, is a fall herd. We don't have thousands of acres where we can encompass the daily lives of a deer herd 365 days a year. In fact, you can't until you get to 800, 1,000 acres or more, even a portion of the deer herd. You're not going to encompass it. So this deer shouldn't be there during the summertime, especially those mature bucks. You want to know a bad hunting property? A great sign for that is that you have mature bucks on your land during the summer. Typically that means you're not going to have them during the fall. So think about that. Using your land during the summer, the bucks shouldn't be there anyways. Enjoy your land. Get out there, learn about your land, learn about your deer herd. It is a great time moving forward during the summer, and that's a number one, one of the number one mistakes that I see that people make is just not enjoying their land enough, using it enough. Now, number two, this is a big one, always a controversial one. And we're out here right now, and there's a tom up there really cranking. So that's pretty cool. We saw a hen earlier when we were out here. So we're out here shooting videos all the time and enjoying the land, and we still shoot some mega bucks during the fall. So That's how it should work. But we just heard that one up there. That was awesome. Diane and Dante have tags coming up soon, so I'm looking forward to that. It's to get you fired up right there. But really, one of the main summer habitat improvements, hunting improvements that I see that people make mistakes on is planting soybeans. I was on 4 client lands this week, and 2 out of the 4 have had failed soybean plantings. Not because they didn't grow, not because they didn't germinate, not because they didn't get them in the ground correctly, simply because they were not a fit for their land. And most of the time soybeans are not. They're a minority. They're a small percentage of all lands that soybeans appropriate. Soybeans, when you plant them on land, I'll give you an example. Up north, there's not a lot of ag land. You could have very small number of deer, but if your soybeans are the only game in town and you have 3 to 5 acres, you can bet that they're going to be down to the dirt by mid-October. So I've seen some great soybean success stories, meaning they put a fence all the way around it, a high fence or an electric fence, double electric fence, keep them out of there. They take the fence down in November and the deer come in. But they also have green food plots or corn or green and corn right next door, so it establishes a pattern of the use of that plot. So if you have to throw away half your plot system to plant some beans and fence them off and that expense to fence it off, and you don't have that attraction to get the deer on your property end of August, September, early October until you take that fence off, then it's all for naught too. And a lot of people don't have those kind of tracks that they can take that away. Man, things going to town up there, so it's distracting. But soybeans by far, and I'm not just picking on soybeans, they literally are by far the #1 food plot failure that I see. And let's face it, during the summer, most properties in the north half country, they don't need your forages. The deer don't need your forages to actually be healthy. There's so much food. We have tons of food around here. And even when I was in the UP of Michigan up north, I was told the deer did not need my food to survive. Now, right before fall, right before they go to the winter time, right when they get out of the winter time, they really need that food. You know, right before winter, post-winter, pre-winter, that food source at that time is incredible. It's really important. But during the summer, the deer don't need your food. You can build a doe factory, and what I see is most of those bean fields aren't making it to mid-October anyways. They didn't offer any additional nutrition. They might have stressed out your deer herd because they were there, and you created a doe factory. So there's a lot more negativity and a diminishing return for soybeans planted during the summertime than you would really think, and it's the #1 food plot failure that I see. Now, a great time during the summer. If you are not practicing your bow, if you're a bow hunter and you're not practicing during the summer, what a missed opportunity. And I'm not gonna say that you have to practice a certain amount of days or a certain amount of hours. I don't like people giving that advice because that's kind of on you, and your level of competency. But I can say that without some practice during the summer, you're really going to be behind when it comes to the heat of the hunting season and being a proficient archer and being a responsible archer. When you go to make that kill and that moment of truth arrives, you really are missing a lot if you're not just hitting at least a few arrows here and there during the summertime and really keeping those shoulders and those arms loose. I know I'm 50 years old now, it's not old, but I do feel those aches and pains a little bit more, and I notice if I'm shooting my bow consistently, especially we shot indoors a couple times just over the last month and a half. It's been really awesome just to get going on that and really concentrate and flinging a few arrows. So really take the time during the summer to make sure that you're hitting the practice range with your bow, and it's a greatly missed opportunity if you're not. Now, stand preparation. Great time during the summer months. Great time for restrapping. Of course, your stand should already be out of the woods, but making sure that you really take a look at, check your stands, inspect your stands. The first time you check your tree stand for a hunt, it shouldn't be since you sat in it the last time in the fall, the previous fall. You should really check your stands out, get them out of the woods, restrap them if needed, check the condition of your straps, everything, especially cables holding up platforms. They fail often. Maybe you want to change them to chain. But bottom line is that there's a lot to inspect, safety lines to inspect, and it's a great time. And it's a great time to actually make sure your shooting lanes are open. That's a really hard one. If you're going in and making shooting lanes in September and October, right before or during the season, or if you have to take a saw to your stands when you use them for the first time, like I used to back in the day, to make sure it was still open, that's a little bit too late. And so I have myself to blame for that in the past. But summer's a great time to maintain your stands, especially June, July, August. You can bet if you clear stands out at that time when there's full foliage on the trees and you actually can see those shooting lanes, it's going to be even better when you get there during the fall instead of worse. As opposed to clearing them in the spring, you don't know what it's going to look like, you don't know what kind of growth or trees are going to fall down. Great time to prep your stands during the summer. It's a missed opportunity if you're not doing so. Now another thing, food plots. Food plots, a lot of food plots being planted right now in the spring, early summer. And what I find is, you can see these food plots right behind me right here. You can see the rye coming back up behind me down below. And that rye, the deer are just hammering it right now. It's prior to spring green up. And so this is at a time when there's really nothing else green in the woods. And so that rye down there, and if you have weed on your property, they hit some of the most missed opportunities of the entire season. In fact, I believe this 2 to 4 weeks, this rye is available right now, post-winter recovery. And when those deer are just starting to really kick, the antlers are starting to come in about 3 or 4 weeks, and deer are starting to grow, fawns are coming. What a great time to offer some nutrition prior to that period. And you can make a case that this 2 to 4 weeks of green right now is worth more than a field of beans or clover on your land during the summer months, especially if they can get that high quality nutrition somewhere else and you're not jamming them into a small parcel during the summer. So a lot of planting going on right now. I find this is a great time for prep work, great time to take care of your weeds. Weedy plots are bad, really bad. If you have weedy plots during the summertime, sure, you can make a case that deer are hitting your weedy plots during the summertime more than they would even a pure clean clover and alfalfa field because they have more diversity. But guess what, folks? All those weeds die and they turn brown and they're gone in the fall. So a 10-acre field turns into a 1-acre field of volume. You say, wow, really cool. They hit this field of weeds and greens during the summer months, but then if it's all gone during the fall, complete waste of food plot space. And I've seen a lot of food plots like that. Weedy is good. No, trash is not good in your food plots, especially when it gets in the fall and all those weeds are dead and you're left with some stunted clover or alfalfa or whatever type of crop you have because you didn't take care of the weeds in the plot. You didn't take appropriate weed measures. What I'm doing this year, and I did last year, something I originated back in the early 2000s, I wrote about it chapter 14 or chapter 12 of my 2014 food plot book, is I'm using a rotation of buckwheat, and I call it the ultimate no-till plot. Again, it was something I originated almost 20 years ago. I'm taking the time to put buckwheat in here. You can look up ultimate no-till and find that, but I'm putting buckwheat on these plots during the summertime. It's a low food value. It's a great cover crop, meaning it smothers out weeds. It also holds moisture in the soil when I go to plant August 1st. Takes care of weeds for me. I don't have to rip up the ground over and over again. I'm spraying when I put the buckwheat in. I'm spraying when I take it out and when I smash it down over seeds on August 1st. You can watch that whole practice being done on video, and I have it on my site too, Instagram, if you follow me there. I talk about the ultimate no-till. But it's a great way to make sure that your plots are weed-free, whatever you do, whether you're practicing rotation of a non-food source, just as a cover crop. Buckwheat I found to be the best. It's the only one I would ever recommend for crushing over and using the ultimate no-till plot during the summertime. But you can avoid erosion by having that buckwheat. You can see the slope that we have on these food plots around here. Nothing's flat around here, it seems like. But summer is a great time to not plant your food plots, but to actually take care of your food plots and make sure that they're really kicking. And you have 95% or 100% efficiency going into the fall instead of taking a garbage weed infested field into the fall that it gives you 10% volume on and you have no consistent draw and a waste of a food plot. And your food plot might have been doing great during the summertime when the deer didn't need it. And that's not good for you or the local deer herd. Now it seems, hinge cuts have been around for a long time. Unfortunately, hinge cuts are talked about way too much. And I do recommend hinge cutting. I have a client right now, he's hinge cutting. He was a client from yesterday. He's hinge cutting on his land today. I finish a plan at the end of the day. We spend a couple hours on discussion if my clients want to, and they can hit right out to the woods the next day, the next morning, and start working. He's doing that right now because he had appropriate sized soft maple that he could cut. It's right now before the leaves are budding out. It's a great time to actually hinge cut, and he's going to town right now. But I only recommend hinge cutting on about 20 to 25% of all the lands that I go to. So during the summer months, be very wary. If you're spending a lot of time hinge cutting, I see a lot of folks hinge cutting just to hinge cut because they heard it sounded good. Most of the time they're doing it wrong because they're making it head high. They're making canopies that are really not good during the hunting season or winter time. And just because someone shows you a deer under a canopy during the winter time and they're bedded there doesn't mean that's exactly what they want. Think about it. If deer needed a canopy to bed under and that was where they preferred to bed, there wouldn't be very many deer bedded down anywhere in the whitetail woods because that is not open very often. There's a lot more to it than just a canopy. In fact, that's a very small, if any, portion at all. Deer need side cover and they need browse. So think about that. You know, a lot of times people are hinge cutting and they're trying to fit a square peg in a round hole and it's just not working out. It's not appropriate for your land. So take a lot of safeguards and really read up, watch a lot of information. Watch on this YouTube channel, my Whitetail Habitat Solutions channel. Make sure that you're looking at the bedding areas, the bedding area playlist, and make sure that I talk about hinge cuts a lot and if they're a right fit for you. And I want to make sure they're a right fit for you because there's a lot of wasted time during the summer months. One of the things that's a really cool activity for the summer months, most people are waiting till the fall months or hunting season to put their mock scrapes out. I want to see you not make that mistake. I want to see during the summer months that you're actually working on your mock scrapes. I work on my mock scrapes towards the end of June, early July. I believe we're going to be moving here pretty soon to a new property, new land. I'm actually going to be putting a mock scrape out tomorrow because I can't wait. I want to put a cell camera on it, maybe two, make a couple mock scrapes on some new land and just see what's going on. And so this is a little bit earlier than I normally, but I'm jumping the gun because I'm excited. But June, July is a great time. We have a lot of trail cam photos. If you look up how to create a mock scrape, there's a lot of information. I have a mock scrape playlist. And really, if you're waiting until September and October to put on a mock scrape, you know, certainly November, then you're really behind. And what I find is we're putting mock scrapes out naturally. We're not using ribbon or rope or some garbage like that. We're using a vine, which is natural to most areas. If you don't have vines in your areas, a grapevine, then I suggest, like up north, you can use a jack pine, white oak, aspen, beech. Beech is a great branch. So use branches that are consistent with a lot of rubbing and scraping activity in your area, and that'll be the right fit. Around 5 feet long, always. I'm going to repeat that, always. You're not connecting to the vine directly to a branch or directly to a rope. You're allowing some rope to hang and then you connect the branch or vine. That could be 2 to 3 inches, it could be 2 to 3 feet, depending on how high a branch is or how high you have to tie a mock scrape to. Vertical mock scrapes are the best. I've seen literally thousands of mock scrapes throughout my travels, maybe tens of thousands, lots of mock scrapes, lots of different ways, lots of crazy ways. We don't even need to get into that. This is the best way. You know, I'm paid a lot of money to go to my clients and make good decisions for my clients, make good recommendations, no different than me making recommendations to you. I have no reason to make anything up. This is what I do for a living. A lot of these concepts I originated and came up with many years ago, and they've been tried and true and severely tested over and over again. When it comes to mock scrapes, the mock scrapes that I talk about literally are the best mock scrapes that I believe are out there, and I've seen every mock scrape that you can make out there. I use no scent. I hang them about belly high. I put them right on a trail, and you can bet they're within bow shot of a tree stand. So great time to work on your mock scrapes as you go into the summer months, especially that June, July. It gets a deer ready. They will start hitting them right away in most areas, and that'll continue on to the hunting season. And you want to be the one where a buck's been hitting a mock scrape on your land for months at a time, not just a week, and you just threw it up and you left your scent around, you left some damage around when you cleared a stand. No different than clearing shooting lanes in October. You just don't want that type of intrusion during the hunting season. So make sure they're ready a few months ahead of time, and you're going to love your mock scrapes. Make sure you can put a camera on them too. And that's what I'm doing. I'm putting that one out tomorrow, a couple out, and I'm putting cameras on them right away. So I can't wait. I'll stick a couple of Exodus renders on them just so we get the cell picture sent to us right away. It's going to be awesome. Now I think I said top 5 deer hunting mistakes for the summertime, but I think we're going to get it up to about 8 or so. But anyways, one of the things that a huge mistake, maybe I should have led with this, is that there's far too much emphasis and priority put on buck movements during the summertime. Bucks have completely different home ranges the majority of the time, and I'm talking 90 to 100% of the time. during the summer months compared to the fall months. I coined the phrase the whitetail shift many years ago, and that's when bucks shift from their traditional summer ranges, which includes a large supply of summer food. It includes a large supply of canopy, overstory, cool airflow, shade, and not a lot of stem count per acre. Bucks do not want to crash their velvet through cover during the summertime. There's a pain associated with that. They can rip it, it'll bleed, compared to where they want to actually crash through during the fall to seek security cover at a time of high stress during the hunting season, at a time of high stress during the rut, when hunters are hitting the woods. Completely different cover, completely different food choices. Those are homebodies. They have a fraction of the yearly annual whitetail movement in home range that bucks, especially a mature buck, has. Mature buck has a lot of home range at night. You really need to be concentrating on where he's at during the daylight. And where he's at during the daylight during the fall is typically not where he's at during the daylight during the summer months. You should really be scouting during the summer months. What do you use the summer months for to scout? To say, there's Big Mo. He's feeding in that field a mile away. I find that they're typically a mile to a mile and a half away from where they're at during the fall. So if you're in ag land, you're looking at that range. If you're in big wooded area and it's legal, you can put out some mineral licks. Really try to find where they're at during the summertime. A lot of times where they're at during the summertime is not where they're going to be at in the fall. That's a general rule. There are exceptions to every rule, but at the same time, if you live by the fact that you have a bunch of bucks on your land, big batch or group of mature bucks on your land during the summer, and that's what you want, you're typically not going to be the one shooting them during the fall, except for the peak of the rut. And if you have to rely on those 7 to 10 days for the peak of the rut for a mature buck to come back from a core area somewhere else, you're really behind when it comes to shooting a target buck every single year and really having a great hunt, or even being able to be a herd influencer. Because if you're not really attracting the daylight attention of the mature bucks in your area, in your neighborhood on an annual basis, you are not going to be the herd influencer. So it's really important to not put a lot of emphasis on what you're seeing during the summer. That's a huge summer lie. I talk about summer trail cam lies. You can look that up on Google. I've had articles in the past about that for many years. Pay attention to that whitetail shift when they're actually coming onto your land. And that's why the timing of your food plots on that time, you're getting your mock scrapes ready, you're getting the weeds out, you're really working on your land to be really kicking during the hunting season and not during June, July, August. And finally, playing golf. Big summer mistake. I think golf is frustrating. I think it could be enjoyable. I don't do it much. I've had some fun with Diana and some other couples going out just for a round of golf and steak and at the local golf course. But hey, golf is nothing like deer hunting. Let's look at it that way. Maybe muskie fishing. Muskie fishing is awesome. That's like a big hunt for a mature buck. That's a cool summer activity. That wouldn't be a mistake. That's honing your whitetail skills. But golf, come on, guys. I hope you have a great hunt this fall and really pay attention to what you're doing in the summer. And I want to make sure that you're heading in the right direction and you're using your time wisely this summer.